Have you ever felt a strange chill, almost imperceptible, while talking to someone? That kind of feeling you can't quite explain, as if behind that seemingly friendly smile, there's something dark, undefined, yet deeply unsettling. It's not fear, it's not suspicion, it's something more instinctive, something that warns you silently. Something is off. Carl Jung, one of the greatest experts of the human psyche and founder of analytical psychology, uncovered a disturbing pattern through years of clinical observations, deep studies, and conversations with patients from all walks of life. It's a pattern that doesn't strike with violence or screams, but works in the shadows, silent, insidious. It's an invisible signal, hard to grasp with reason, yet clearly perceived by our deepest instincts. A signal that, once recognized, can never be ignored again. There exists a danger, potentially greater than any tangible physical threat, and it doesn't reveal itself through obvious aggression or hostility. On the contrary, it hides behind normality, behind kindness, even behind moral superiority. It's a subtle mechanism, often overlooked by most people, yet connected to an internal process as old as humanity itself, the projection of the shadow. Has this ever happened to you? You're speaking with someone, maybe someone who seems normal, balanced, perhaps even empathetic, and yet suddenly you feel accused, misunderstood, as if this person were attributing to you thoughts, intentions, or character traits that simply don't belong to you. They aren't reacting to you. They aren't seeing who you really are. They're reacting to a distorted version of you that they've created within themselves, a mental construct fueled by buried fears, rejections, and inner conflicts. What you're experiencing in that very moment is Jungian shadow projection in its purest form, and it's not trivial. For Jung, it was one of the most dangerous signals we can encounter in human relationships. The shadow, as Jung defined it, is what we reject about ourselves. These are the emotions we choose to ignore, the impulses that make us feel inadequate, the qualities we consider incompatible with the image we want to project. We push them into the unconscious, hide them even from ourselves, as if they didn't exist. But these parts don't disappear. They remain deep inside, accumulating, growing in intensity, until they find a way to surface, often through others. That's why when someone systematically projects their shadow onto those around them, they are displaying one of the most alarming signs Jung ever identified: a total inability to recognize their own denied aspects. To them, you become the embodiment of those qualities. You are the problem. And they aren't doing it on purpose. They aren't lying. They truly believe what they say, because for them, it is the truth. Spiritual traditions have always known this, long before Jung. In Buddhism, they speak of the opaque mirror that reflects only the shadows of others, unable to show the truth of oneself. In Christianity, there's the famous saying, "You see the speck in your neighbor's eye, but not the plank in your own." Two different ways of saying the same thing. Those who project do not see themselves. They only see what they wish to deny. If you'd like to explore these themes further and learn how to recognize the hidden signals of psychological dynamics that influence your relationships, subscribe to my YouTube channel Beyond the Mind and hit the notification bell. Every week, I publish content dedicated to personal growth, awareness, and understanding the human psyche. Together, we'll go beyond the surface, toward a deeper vision of ourselves and the world around us. Back to the subject. The crucial point to understand is that those who project are not lying intentionally. No. They genuinely perceive those qualities in you. That's exactly why this dynamic is so hard to confront. To them, It's not a projection. It's an undeniable truth. And this conviction, deeply rooted and absolute, is what makes it so dangerous. This belief becomes contagious. Those who project can convince others that you truly are what they describe. Today, neuroscience confirms what Jung had already intuited. The brain filters reality to confirm existing beliefs. But when large-scale shadow projection comes into play, that filter becomes a complete distortion of truth. A good example is given by researcher Robert Johnson, who compared this distortion to a pair of glasses that change how we perceive everything we see. How do you know if you're facing someone massively projecting their shadow? The clearest sign is when what is said about you doesn't align at all with who you feel yourself to be. You're being accused of feelings or motivations you've never experienced, and they do it with absolute certainty, immune to contradiction. In that moment, you are not witnessing a personal attack, but an inner battle being projected outward. The person is fighting against parts of themselves they cannot accept, and you've unintentionally become the battlefield. The old saying goes, "The road to hell is paved with good intentions." But Jung would add that it's also walked by those who believe themselves morally superior. Ego inflation is perhaps the gravest sign of all. Unlike arrogance, which is easy to spot, it disguises itself as virtue. It's when someone sees themselves as infallible, as a bearer of universal truths, or even chosen by a higher force. Meister Eckhart, the German mystic, spoke of it centuries ago. Zen calls it the spiritual disease, while the Sufis describe it as a veil of light, even more dangerous than the veil of darkness. The unmistakable signal? No doubt. No openness to dialogue. All great sages throughout history expressed humility. But those suffering from psychic inflation experience every criticism as a direct attack on the universal good. This state creates incredible charisma. Jung noted that many religious or political leaders were able to attract followers precisely through this illusion of absolute truth. Psychologist Claudio Naranjo explained that spiritual ego is the most subtle. It doesn't say, "I am important," but rather, "I am a channel of supreme goodness." That's why many follow it, believing they are close to something elevated. How do you recognize it? Watch how it reacts to criticism. If every disagreement is seen as a cosmic attack, then you're dealing with inflated ego. For Jung, this state was dangerous, not only for those around the person, but especially for the individual themselves. The fusion between the ego and archetypal contents creates an internal tension that will inevitably lead to collapse. The stronger the inflation, the more violent the awakening. Then there's that type of person who always seems to know what to say, how to behave, which expression to show. Perfect, impeccable, but lacking spontaneity. Jung called it the persona, a term borrowed from Greek theatre, and considered it a warning sign. Behind that mask often lies a complete loss of authenticity. Fernando Pessoa once said that the real danger isn't the mask itself, it's forgetting that it's only a mask. When someone appears too perfect, they lack the imperfections that make us human. Our brain's mirror neurons detect inconsistencies, creating that sense of unease we've all felt at least once. And the problem isn't just external, it's what hides behind. Someone who invests all their energy into appearing perfect accumulates a chaotic shadow inside, one that will eventually explode. Marie-Louise von Franz, Jung's collaborator, observed that those who seemed irreproachable were often the most unpredictable. But there's another level, even more unsettling: archetypal possession. Imagine talking to someone and suddenly noticing a shift. Their eyes, tone, energy. They seem like the same person, but they're not. Something ancient and transpersonal is manifesting through them. Archetypes are universal models of the collective unconscious. They can inspire compassion, but also fanaticism. When a person is possessed by an archetype, they lose the ability to reflect on themselves and become an unconscious vessel for immense forces. Jung described it as one of the most alarming signs we can encounter. Robert Moore, a Jungian analyst, said you're no longer speaking to a whole person, but to an archetypal fragment that has taken over. This state, when guided properly, can be useful in ritual contexts, but when it happens randomly, it becomes dangerous. And there's one final sign, perhaps the most tragic: the compulsion to repeat. It's when someone keeps reliving the same painful situations over and over, as if trapped in an invisible labyrinth. They don't do it on purpose. It's driven by inner forces outside their awareness. Spiritual traditions call it karma. Jung interpreted it as an unresolved inner drama. The person doesn't choose to suffer. They simply repeat patterns they don't understand. And that's why, sometimes, they pull us into stories that don't belong to us. Christopher Bollas called them unthought experiences, events so deeply rooted they become the unconscious engine of life. Neuroscience now confirms that the brain seeks to confirm its internal models, even when they cause pain. And so, without meaning to, we become part of a story that isn't ours. But there is a way out: the conscious integration of the shadow. This process allows us to transform conflict into understanding, pain into growth. It doesn't mean becoming perfect, but honest with ourselves. Jung used to say, "I prefer to be whole rather than good." That's why, when you meet someone who has truly done this inner work, you feel it immediately. They don't need to prove anything. They don't put on a show. They don't project. They carry a rare inner peace and clarity. They don't divide the world into good and bad, but see it in all its shades. If you'd like to explore these themes further, subscribe to my YouTube channel Beyond the Mind and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any new videos. I want to thank you for taking the time to get to know yourself and the world around you. And if this video touched you in any way, please give it a like and share it with someone who might benefit from it. Because growing together is the best way to go, beyond the mind.